Parles-tu français? Hablas español? Parli italiano? If you've used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world. With lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers, Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Wondery. Spelled BABBEL.com/Wondery. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Hi, I'm Juliet Cowley, a retired FBI profiler and host of the true crime podcast, The Consult, Real FBI Profilers. If you're fascinated with true crime and criminal profiling, then join us as we discuss real cases and examine the behavior exhibited before, during, and after the commission of the crime. You can listen to The Consult wherever you get your podcasts. It's as close as it gets to being in the room with the FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 428 of the True Crime All the Time Unsolved podcast. I'm Mike Ferguson, and with me, as always, is my partner in true crime, Mike Gibson. Gibby, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. And you?
Oh, I'm doing as well as I can be.
As well as you can be.
If that makes any sense at all.
It kind of does.
It kind of does. Well, we dropped a new Patreon episode Saturday night. It's on Patrick Gillum. He was convicted of a murder that he committed like 30 plus years earlier based on like the smallest speck of DNA you can imagine.
A little tidbit.
So it's a very interesting case scientifically, for sure. We also have a new episode out on True Crime All the Time where we're talking about Todd Kindhammer. This case is fascinating because he called 911 and said that a pipe flew off a truck, crashed into his windshield, and killed his wife.
Yeah.
But the authorities didn't believe him.
Maybe you will, maybe you won't.
Let's go ahead and give our Patreon shout outs. We had Echo Thomas.
Hey, Thomas.
Robin Sam.
What's up, Sams?
Chris Lind.
Hey, Len.
Ren.
What up, Ren?
Richard Handler.
Well, thanks, Handler.
Rich.
Rich. Yeah.
Kendall Coleman.
What's up, Coleman?
Kendall.
Hey, Kendall.
Sierra Mitchell.
Well, thanks, Mitchell.
Missy Bishop.
There's the Bishop.
And last but not least, Cinda Sharp.
Hey, Sharp.
And then if we go back into the vault, this week we selected Alika.
Hey, Alika.
So appreciate the new support, the continued support. We always do. All right, buddy. Are you ready to get into this episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved?
I am ready.
We're talking about the disappearance of Paul Baker. 3-year-old Paul Baker went missing from his home in March 1987. Over 30 years later, he still has not been found. But there is a person of interest in his disappearance, has been for a very long time, and that's his stepmother. So we'll get into all of that.
Yeah.
Paul Leonard Baker was born on June 29th, 1983. His parents, James Baker and Linda Solorzano, separated in the mid-90s because James was having an affair with the children's babysitter, Susan. That never goes over well.
No, it does not. Don't be having an affair with your babysitter.
It seems like such a cliche.
It really does, doesn't it?
A guy having an affair with the babysitter. Linda said she moved out of the home with Paul and his older sister, Nina. Soon after, she claimed James never paid child support. All right, so according to Linda, James is a real winner.
Yeah.
Not only did he sleep with the babysitter, but he never paid any child support. Linda had limited financial means and applied for public assistance by the time her divorce with James was finalized. She was pregnant with her new boyfriend's child. According to Linda, the judge sided with James and agreed she didn't have the means to support Paul and Nina. James was given full custody of the kids and married Susan.
Almost like he was rewarded for having the affair.
And not paying child support?
Yeah.
Maybe she would have had more means had he paid child support.
That's true.
But that's very rare, I think, when it comes to custody.
Yeah, today I think it's more rare. In the early 80s, I don't know.
So what you're saying is you don't know.
I'm saying I don't know.
Okay. Because I don't either. But I think by and large, most of the time, the wife gets custody.
Yeah, the mother of the child, yeah.
Primary custody, at least. James and Susan Baker purchased a home in Shell Point, South Carolina, because James was a sergeant at the Marine Corps Air Station in nearby Beaufort. According to Nina, Susan became physically abusive towards her and Paul after they moved. On March 5th, 1987, Susan put Paul down for a nap. She claimed she put him down at 11 a.m. and fell asleep under the influence of alcohol and muscle relaxants. Paul was never seen again after this.
Well, if you're taking muscle relaxants with some alcohol, it's probably going to knock you out for a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of them on their own has the ability to do that. But they always say mixing drugs with alcohol intensifies, I think, them both exponentially somehow. But I want to talk about, this allegation on the part of Nina that Susan became physically abusive towards the two kids. I mean, she was their babysitter.
Yeah, at one point.
And had been for, we don't know how long, but a period of time. You just wonder what happened to get to that point. And maybe she was before, but you would have thought Nina would have said that as well. It's almost like she wasn't before, but then all of a sudden she started.
I wonder if Susan was treating the kids differently at that point in time because she wanted James to herself. She didn't want Linda's kids.
Yeah, it could be that. It could be that, now she's with them all the time.
Well, that's true too.
Whereas before, babysitting was for a specified period of time, and then she went home. We don't know though.
Yeah.
Susan woke up at 12:30 or 1:30 to a call from James. James told the Beaufort Gazette that he called Susan after he was notified by the station's family services that a woman called claiming she had Paul and he was okay. He was told the call was long distance. A sheriff's deputy confirmed with family services that a phone call was made, but offered no other details. And to me, Gibbs, this is very mysterious.
It is.
Now, the sheriff's deputy is confirming there was a call made, but because they didn't go into detail, we don't know if what James said was correct, right? That a woman called and claimed that she had Paul and he was okay. Susan said in an interview with the Gazette, the last time I saw him, I'd peeked my head in the door. I said, "Hey, bud, I want you to lay down and take a nap." She shut the doors of Paul and Nina's bedrooms. After she talked to James, she went into Paul's room and he wasn't there. She claimed Paul's door and the front door were partially open. She quickly searched inside and outside before calling the police.
Well, that would be scary. You wake up from a nap. Your husband tells you that he's received this call. You go check out the bedroom and Paul's not there. You notice the doors no longer closed the way it was. You notice the front doors slightly open. I think most people, your heart would start racing and you would have that feeling we've all had when we thought we've lost our kid at the mall or anywhere. And we, for a minute, two, whatever it is, until you finally find them, you just feel like, oh.
It's absolute panic.
Yeah, exactly.
The sheer panic. Now, what would you believe occurred in that scenario as Susan describes it? For me, it's that Okay, he got up out of bed, he opened his door, managed to open the front door, and walked outside.
Yeah. And now where is he?
James told the Gazette at the time, "I still feel like my ex-wife knows where he is at." Initially, James accused Linda Solorzano of making the phone call and abducting Paul. Law enforcement ultimately determined Linda had nothing to do with Paul's disappearance. Police confirmed she was in North Carolina at the time.
And why would she take one child and not the other?
Yeah, that's a good point. Susan Baker agreed to take a polygraph. 8 days after Paul went missing, her results were inconclusive. James Baker also took a polygraph and failed.
Well, not looking good for them based off of that. But again, we know that polygraphs aren't the tell-all.
Well, they're certainly not what they were thought to be in, let's say, the 80s. Police really thought highly of polygraphs in the 1980s and at other points in time, much more so than they do today. Courts as well. But this is, one of the reasons why polygraphs are so frustrating. Okay, Susan's results were inconclusive. Well, what in the heck does that mean?
Yeah.
That she was nervous, that she was showing deception. They couldn't tell whether she was showing deception. And then it said James failed. But could he have failed because, he was nervous? He's upset about, his son being gone. It's just the thing about polygraphs I don't like.
And the flip side of that is if they would have passed the polygraphs.
What does that mean?
Yeah, we'd be like, well,
they would have been cleared.
Sure they would have.
But to me, it doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot either way. According to the Charlie Project, Susan admitted she was stressed about taking care of the children and didn't want the task. She wanted to send them back to their mother. So I think, this does go kind of to your theory, Gibbs, which is, she didn't want to be taking care of Linda's kids. I mean, they were James's kids as well, but they weren't hers.
No. And it is different when you babysit kids to being responsible for those same kids all the time.
Yeah.
It's night and day.
It's like grandparents picking up the kids, taking them to Chuck E. Cheese, and then buying them a bunch of sugary treats and ice cream and all this, and then they just drop them back off. That's what my mom always did.
Sure. Here you go.
Here you go. And now they're bouncing off the walls for 5 hours.
You got to deal with it.
And my mom just goes home.
Yeah. That's what they call grandparents get to do.
I can't wait to be a grandparent.
Yeah, one day.
James told the police that Susan usually disciplined the kids, and he thought she was too harsh. He suggested Susan killed Paul and threw his body in Battery Creek. He also said Nina might be in danger from Susan. But then the following day, he said he no longer believed Susan killed Paul. I mean, it's a very damning thing to come out and say, or to even suggest that your wife killed your son and threw his little body into this creek.
Yeah.
And that I'm afraid my daughter is going to be next. And then you have a total reversal the very next day.
It's almost like he went home and said, I told him I think you might have done it. And
she scared the bejeebies out of him?
Maybe she said, if I go down, you go down.
James turned Nina over to the sheriff's office to be placed in foster care.
I wonder if he did that because he felt that they were in no position to take care of her at that time.
Or because he really did think she was in danger.
Yeah.
Because on March 23rd, 1987, Susan was charged with assault and battery with intent to kill in relation to her abuse against Nina Baker.
Serious charge.
Very serious. According to the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office website, Susan Baker's story was highly suspicious, and during the investigation, it was learned Paul Baker and his 6-year-old sister were physically abused by her on a regular basis. The doctor who examined Nina found evidence of physical abuse. She had an untreated broken bone in her hand and ulcerated sores on her back that were the result of severe beatings. It was estimated that her hand had been broken for 4 to 5 weeks.
Oh, poor girl.
Yeah, I mean, that is heartbreaking. Nina told investigators that Susan beat her with a stick. She spoke about being confined in a closet for hours and using a trash can as a toilet. She was also forced to stay up all night with a bar of soap in her mouth. This is a 6-year-old little girl.
Yeah. This Susan is a
POS of the highest magnitude.
Yes.
Because I'm getting very upset just thinking about what this little girl went through. Nina also said that Susan whipped Paul when he wet the bed and forced him to stand in a corner for hours at a time. Gibbs, you know what a 3-year-old is going to do sometimes?
Wet the bed.
Wet the bed. It is going to happen.
You know what's not going to help the situation? Beating them because they wet the bed. It's just going to give them more anxiety and scare them. It's not going to help the situation.
You know what it could do? Turn them into a serial killer? Yeah. I mean, we're talking about the childhood of some of the serial killers we talk about.
We are, exactly.
Physical abuse, torture, beatings. In his interview, James said that Paul was sick in the days before his disappearance and soiled himself and the bed.
Probably soiled himself as soon as he saw Susan coming.
And I don't know about you, Gibbs, but James doesn't come off real well, with some of the things that he's saying. Yes, he's saying them about Susan, but he's in the house.
He lives there.
He lives there. How does he not know that some of this stuff is going on? It sounds like he does know. Then the question is, well, why is he allowing it to occur?
Yeah.
Why is he not protecting his kids?
Yeah. If you're aware of it, you should be doing something about it.
Hey, folks, why drop a fortune on basics when you don't have to? Quince has the good stuff, high-quality fabrics, classic fits, and lightweight layers for warm weather, all at prices that make sense. Everything I've ordered from Quince has been nothing but solid. Quince has closet staples you'll want to reach for over and over, like cozy cashmere and cotton sweaters from just $50, breathable flow knit polos, and comfortable lightweight pants that somehow work for both weekend hangs and dressed up dinners. The best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. By working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen, Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I am in love with Quince's shorts and their lightweight joggers. Those are my go-tos. Keep it classic and cool with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/truecrime for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/truecrime to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/truecrime. True Crime All the Time Unsolved is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Because Progressive offers discounts for paying in full, owning a home, and more. Plus, you can count on their great customer service to help you when you need it, so your dollar goes a long way. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save on car insurance. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states or situations. When asked about the day her brother went missing, Nina said she didn't remember seeing Paul or hearing his voice at all. On March 5th, she got home from school at 11 a.m. Susan told her Paul was feeling better and playing in the yard. Soon after, she heard Susan screaming for Paul to take a nap. Nina then fell asleep. When she woke up, Susan told her Paul was missing.
So all Nina can assume is that Paul was out in the yard playing. She didn't see him. Again, she was little, 6 years old. And then she hears Susan yelling at Paul to take a nap. She takes a nap. She wakes up. Paul's gone. So did something happen before she took her nap? Or did something happen to Paul during her nap?
Well, I think either one's possible, right? Because she's saying she never actually saw him. She only heard Susan telling him to take a nap.
Yeah.
On March 24th, the police searched the Baker home and found blood spatters that were sent away for analysis, but it's unclear what happened to them per the Charlie Project.
And that seems strange, right?
It does.
If you sent them away, there should be a record of that. And
when you hear the term blood spatters, okay, how many are we talking about? How many different blood spatters? And what does it indicate?
Yeah.
And that's what the analysis would show. Where's that information?
Yeah, because it would be really helpful.
The extensive search for Paul lasted for about 8 weeks. People searched neighborhoods surrounding the family home and local marshes. Eventually, authorities reduced the search efforts, but they followed up on all leads they received. And you have to believe, Gibbs, that people in the community would come out the minute they learn that a 3-year-old is missing.
Oh, yeah, I don't think you waste any time.
In May 1987, authorities responded to a tip and dug several holes in the front yard of the Baker's residence. The caller claimed he saw someone digging in the front yard, and deputies found areas that appeared to have been disturbed, but ultimately they found nothing.
Well, if somebody was digging in the front yard to bury something, and they felt like maybe authorities would look there, they could go back and dig up whatever they had there and move it.
Yeah, sometimes maybe what the person saw was somebody digging something up.
Exactly.
That had been buried before. Or maybe it was not anything suspicious at all.
Very true, too.
A few days later, authorities searched Lemon Island off the coast of South Carolina after they received a tip from someone who saw birds flying heavily in the area. Nothing was found. On June 15th, 1987, Susan Baker pleaded guilty to a reduced charge of assault and battery of a high and aggravated nature. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but the sentence was suspended after she served 80 days. She did still have to complete 5 years of probation.
80 days.
Yeah, that's kind of infuriating.
10 years to 80 days? Yeah.
If you punch somebody in front of the Walmart, you're going to catch a charge.
Yeah, we know.
You're going to do more than that, probably. This was serious physical abuse with intent to kill.
Right.
A 6-year-old girl that ultimately ended up with her serving 80 days. Something's not right with that picture.
No, that's not justice there.
In December 1987, the Bakers moved into on-base housing. According to the Charlie Project, in 1989, the police searched the empty residence in Shell Point. Meanwhile, Linda Solorzano was in a custody battle over Nina. Nina spent time in foster care and was eventually placed with her maternal grandmother. While Linda was given the chance to improve her life, Nina went to live with her mother in 1992. So I guess the one good thing that you can say is that, at least Nina got away from Susan.
Yes.
Now, she went into foster care. Hopefully, she was placed with a really, really nice foster family, but she wasn't being abused daily by Susan. We know that.
Right.
And then she was eventually reunited with her mother. The Charlie Project reports that a former cellmate of Susan's later stated that Susan told her James killed Paul, and they buried his body in a neighbor's yard. However, this has never been verified. And I think it's one of the things that's frustrating in a case like this, right? You got tips, you've got cellmates, you got people saying things, but none of it is either leading to something or is able to be confirmed.
Well, unless you can verify something, it doesn't really have any weight, right?
No, but it's still frustrating.
Yeah.
As far as the case goes.
And I'm sure before that was even said, people were already thinking about that a little bit.
Well, if you go back to the polygraph results, even though, we said we don't make a lot out of them, hers were inconclusive. He failed his. Was that because he was asked very pointed questions about whether he had something to do with his son's death?
It may be.
We don't know what the questions and answers were, but there had to have been something, right, to make him fail that test. By 1999, James had been discharged from the military. he and Susan moved to Chipley, Florida. In 1999, Beaufort County elected a new sheriff who formed a cold case squad. Investigators took a new look at Paul's case and asked the Washington County Sheriff's Department in Florida to assist. On June 6, 2000, Susan and James Baker were arrested and charged with assault and battery of a high and aggravated nature related to Paul's disappearance. Authorities did not immediately reveal what new evidence led to the arrests. Later that month, the couple were charged with child neglect.
Well, it seems like they have something, though, right? Because they are pressing forward.
And this is like 13 years, right, after Paul disappeared. And I'm sure people were very, very curious. You know, what evidence did they have now that they never had before?
Yeah, what all of a sudden popped up on the radar?
That led them to be able to make these arrests. Susan and James were extradited back to South Carolina, but a grand jury refused to indict them for assault and battery. Susan was indicted for child neglect, but authorities chose not to pursue the charge because it was a misdemeanor. If she were to be convicted, she wouldn't be severely punished.
Well, she wasn't the time before either, so.
No. Beaufort County Sheriff P.J. Tanner would later tell the Island Packet that the evidence they had was very, very, very shaky, very limited. So maybe they were stretching a little bit to even make the arrests and charge.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe they were jumping the gun, or maybe they were hoping by doing this that something else would have came out of the woodwork, or maybe one of the individuals would have talked a little bit more, maybe try to throw the other one underneath the bus.
The best witnesses were the Bakers. And because they were married, they wouldn't have to testify against each other. So, I mean, I think that's makes it really tough.
It does.
Because as you said, well, maybe one of them turns on the other. But it's kind of hard to put that pressure on when they don't have to testify against one another. In 2003, authorities tried once again to bring charges against the Bakers, but they were not indicted for criminal domestic violence of a high and aggravated nature. I mean, the one thing that you'd have to say is that authorities really believed that they had something to do with Paul's disappearance.
And they're not giving up.
No, they're trying to get them. They just can't. Susan and James were still married by 2009, but sources differ on whether they were still living together at that point. On November 1st, 2009, 7-month-old Shannon Dietrich was reported missing in Washington County, Florida. Susan Baker was Shannon's babysitter and the half-sister of Shannon's father, James Russell Rusty Dietrich Jr. Shannon's parents said they last saw her when they went to bed around 3 a.m. on October 31st. Investigators thought Shannon went missing between that time and 8 a.m. 100 law enforcement agents spent days scouring the home, which was in a remote community, and looking through trash cans. Authorities feared the worst, but on November 4th, Shannon was found alive in a 2-foot by 3-foot cedar box under Susan Baker's bed. Shannon had been in the box for an estimated 12 hours when she was found.
What in the world is wrong with this Susan lady?
It was said that overall, Shannon appeared healthy and she wasn't crying when she was found. There were air holes in the box. Clothing was packed around it to muffle any sounds, and baking soda was placed inside to mask the smell of dirty diapers. Shannon had been fed and cared for, and authorities believe she was put in the box on and off during the days she was missing.
Susan's a terrible person, man.
Well, she was a suspect very early on in the investigation, but never told the police where the baby was. Susan claimed that Christina Mercer gave the baby to her on October 31st, then reported her missing about 10 hours later. James Baker was also arrested on November 4th, but was released. Authorities didn't think he was aware of the situation, and he claimed he never knew the baby was being hidden in his house.
It seems like that would be hard to believe, but if she's in a box majority of the time and
I don't know. Babies make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
I don't. And if she's in there on and off, I just don't know how he would not have known that there's a baby crying. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah.
According to court documents, child welfare officials began looking into allegations. Shannon was being abused less than 2 weeks after she was born. Authorities discovered that in August 2009, Susan wrote to the governor of Florida, claiming Rusty Diedrich and Christina Mercer were drug users, and she was worried for the baby's safety. She claimed Rusty shook the baby, and both parents did drugs in front of her. I mean, where is this headed, Gibbs? That Susan Baker took the 7-month-old baby because she didn't think that the baby was safe with the parents?
I think that's where she's headed with this. Like she was
saving the baby.
Yeah, she was the good person here.
But keeping her in a box under her bed.
Yeah. She had air holes in the box.
I mean, this is a wild, wild story. It really is. And it almost makes me think like Susan might have been struggling with some mental health issues. I mean, why is she writing the governor of Florida?
Yeah, why wouldn't she just go directly to
the authorities, Child Protective Services, somebody like that? Child Protective Services did investigate, and the parents received assistance and entered treatment programs, but Shannon was not removed from their custody.
I'm assuming because they felt that the child was not in danger.
Well, investigators frequently went to the home from August to late September 2009 and reported that both parents used marijuana and kept a messy home, but Shannon seemed to be cared for. In September, a doctor determined she was healthy. According to NBC, Susan asked Christina Mercer a week earlier if she could have permanent custody of Shannon. Both Susan and Christina were charged with felonies and misdemeanors, including child neglect, custodial interference, child desertion, filing a false report, and contributing to the delinquency of a child. Beaufort County Sheriff P.J. Tanner said in a press conference after the arrest, Susan Baker is a wicked woman. Knowing what I know about her, it was a surprise. This child was found alive. I mean, he's not mincing his words.
No, not at all.
He is coming out and saying that she's evil.
Yeah.
He's also alluding to Paul, I believe.
I think so.
Without, coming out and saying it. He can't really just directly come out and say it. Paul Baker's maternal grandmother, Linda Lambert, who gained legal custody of his sister Nina, told NBC she was glad the Florida case renewed interest in Paul's disappearance, adding, "I'd like to know if my grandson is dead or alive. I'd like some closure." Susan's trial began on September 24th, 2010. Susan testified that she put Shannon in the box to protect her from her mother, whom she said wanted to harm or kill the baby. Susan also testified that she and Christina agreed that she would be allowed to raise the baby.
Look, if you thought that baby was in harm, you should have taken the baby to the authorities. But she didn't want to do that because of this side agreement that she had with the baby's mom that she was going to get to take care of the baby moving forward. Or at least this is her story.
But what is taking care of the baby? Keeping her in a box with holes in it?
Yeah, that's not taking care of a baby. And you're putting baby powder in the box to mask the smell of diaper stuff?
Instead of disposing of the diapers the way you're supposed to and cleaning up the baby?
Yeah.
In October, Christina Mercer told Susan she thought about killing Shannon so she could have another baby with Rusty Diedrich. This is all according to Susan, of course. About a week later, Christina made an arrangement to transfer custody of Shannon to Susan permanently. But can you really trust what this woman is saying?
No, I don't think you can.
I don't think you can either.
And does that even make sense? Like, hey, Rusty, I'm going to give Shannon to Susan.
Or I'm going to kill
her,
the baby.
And then we'll make another baby.
Yeah. I mean, nothing that this woman is saying makes sense. On October 1st, 2010, Susan was found guilty of aggravated child abuse, interference with custody, and giving false information to law enforcement. On October 29th, Christina Mercer pled no contest to a misdemeanor charge of providing false information to law enforcement and was sentenced to 364 days in jail with credit for time served. 2 felony charges against her were dropped. So she gets basically a year in jail for providing false information. Susan, in her case against Nina, was convicted of way worse stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And served 80 days.
I know.
You can't make that make sense.
No, you can't.
And what Christina pleaded guilty to was a misdemeanor. Shannon Diedrich was removed from her parents' care and put in a foster home. She was later moved out of state with family. Rusty surrendered his rights, and Christina is not allowed to have contact with her, per the Charlie Project. And all of that, to me, is a good thing.
I think so. Stay away. I was thinking about the punishment, and I think maybe Florida must be tougher than South Carolina.
Or it's because of how much time has passed, the difference in time.
Oh, that's true, too.
The
Yeah.
1980s versus 2010.
That's a big difference as well. Yeah. Yeah.
It's one or the other or both, right? It could be both of them. The only evidence that Christina Mercer willingly gave the baby to Susan was Susan's own statement. She was not considered a credible witness, so the charges against Christina for making a false 911 call and custodial interference couldn't be proved. I think saying Susan is not a credible witness is an understatement.
Exactly.
I wouldn't trust her with the supervision of a wiffle ball.
Me neither.
After Susan's conviction, Paul Baker's older sister, Nina, did an interview with the newspaper The Island Packet. She revealed that no matter how often she moved, Susan always found her new address and sent her letters and gifts. Even though they were estranged, Nina only saw her father and stepmother a few times after she was sent to live with her maternal grandmother, Linda Lambert. And I can't imagine she ever wanted to see Susan especially, and most likely her dad as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm still not sold on James in this whole thing. I don't know what his involvement was, but at the very least, it seems to me like he didn't do enough to protect her. I feel comfortable in saying that.
And I thought the court said Susan couldn't make contact with Nina.
Yeah, I don't think she was supposed to. And some of Susan's letters were cruel. For example, Susan tried to convince Nina that her grandmother never wanted her. Nina said, "My life is just different now. I might talk to my dad again one day, but he'll never see my children." And I don't blame her one bit.
Not at all.
The Island Packet also reported that Nina got married, had children, and became a nurse. And you have to be happy about that. You know, she went through something very horrible as a child.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, you know, she's doing okay and even has children of her own. Nina said about the upcoming sentencing hearing, at her age, even if she just gets 20 years, she'll be 70 years old by the time she gets out. Nothing can ever make up for what she did to me and my brother. If she spent her entire life in jail for my brother's death, it wouldn't make up for what she did. Nina shared her thoughts on the suspended sentence Susan received for abusing her as a child, saying maybe those 10 years in jail would have done something, but because she got off so easy, I think she believed she could just continue to do things. Now maybe this will put an end to it. And I was thinking about, that as well. 80 days, not that anyone even wants to spend 80 days in jail.
Right.
But, what kind of message are you sending to someone?
Basically, you're saying, if you do something wrong, we're just going to slap you on the wrist and send you back out again. So go ahead and do whatever you want to do.
It's not going to be the deterrent that it should be. Luke Brown, the judge in that case, told the Beaufort Gazette that he couldn't say in retrospect if he should have given Susan a stiffer sentence. Well, I can say you should have given her a stiffer sentence. I'll just say it. The executive director of the Child Abuse Prevention Association told the Gazette that the judge's explanation at the time was that prosecutors were trying to punish Susan for Paul's disappearance, and they didn't have a case. And I didn't understand that at all. I got to be honest with you. We talked about it, right? A doctor examined Nina.
Yeah.
Found evidence of physical abuse. Nina herself told investigators that Susan beat her.
Was it because she was sick that they didn't feel confident about?
Maybe. That's the only thing it could have been. In her 2010 interview, Nina's maternal grandmother, Linda Lambert, said she once asked Nina what she heard and saw on the day Paul disappeared. Nina recalled that Susan yelled at Paul to lay down and go to sleep. This went on for a few minutes and then it was silent. On November 15, 2010, Susan Baker was sentenced to 35 years in prison. It came out that Shannon spent about 36 hours locked in the box over the 5 days that she was missing. The prosecutor asked for Susan to be sentenced to 1 year for each hour Shannon spent in the box.
Well, sounds like she almost got that.
Almost. Just a year shy of it. But that doesn't bother me at all. That logic. A year for every hour you put that child in the box.
Yeah.
James Baker spoke in court and said, even if she went about it in the wrong way, her biggest intention was to get Shannon out of a bad situation.
I don't believe that at all.
No, I'm not sure what to say about this guy.
It's like he's coming to her defense.
To the defense of a person who is indefensible.
Exactly.
Although he spoke in her defense at sentencing, Susan and James divorced in the aftermath of the kidnapping. Susan Baker is still serving her sentence. She's eligible for parole in 2031. So, if we take this back around to the disappearance of Paul Baker, right? Foul play is suspected in Paul's case, and his whereabouts remain unknown. Susan remains a person of interest in his disappearance. If he is still alive, Paul would be 42 years old. Paul's described as a white male with blonde hair and blue eyes. He was last seen wearing red pants, a camo shirt, a blue jacket, and gray tennis shoes. You can view an aged, progressed photo of Paul at 22 years old on the NCMEC website.
I don't think Paul left his bedroom, left the house, and wandered off somewhere. I just don't think he did that. I think something happened either right before Nina got back or while she was napping, and Susan did something with the body.
I mean, based on her track record, her history, it's hard not to think that she did something to Paul. But how are police ever going to prove that? Because, we made mention of James. Okay, James lived in the house. How did he not know what was going on with Nina?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way he couldn't have known. But if he did know, then he didn't stop the situation, right? He didn't protect her. If he knows what happened to Paul, what's the likelihood that he would come forward now and spill it?
Yeah.
Maybe more likely now because they're not married and she's in prison. But my fear is that anything he would disclose would implicate himself.
So he's best to just keep quiet at this point.
If he does know something.
Yeah.
There's just too much fire here.
Right.
There's just too much smoke here when it comes to Susan. She was abusive to both of the kids.
She was.
And then she has this bizarre incident with this, young baby years later that lands her in prison. Either she was a sadistic person who liked hurting children, or as I alluded to, there's something going on with her mental health.
Yeah. And who knows what could have happened to little Shannon if they didn't even find her that day in that box. Like, what was Susan's long-term plans?
Yeah, that's hard to figure out, right?
Yeah.
Was it the box forever and bigger box later on? I mean,
Right.
It's hard to even fathom what was going on in her mind. Now, as James tells it, She's just trying to save this baby from her family.
It's a weird way to save a baby.
But then why the box?
Yes,
There's no
exactly.
need for the box.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I know, obviously if you look online, you'll see a lot of people pointing the finger at Susan, and I understand why.
Sure.
With everything we talked about, it's hard not to. But obviously, as of now, there's no conclusive evidence that shows she did anything to Paul. But I think most people, when they review this case, they believe that it leans in that direction.
Well, that's what my gut tells me. But innocent until proven guilty.
Well, absolutely. Is she going to get out of prison in 6 years?
Maybe.
Maybe. She's eligible for parole.
I don't know how old she'll be at that time, but
I was trying to do the math in my head. I came up with 56.
okay. That's fairly young.
If she was paroled in 2031.
Yeah.
Because she's supposed to go, if she serves her full sentence, to 2045.
Well, I don't know if they'll let her out at the first go around.
I know what my answer would be if I was on the parole board. I'm going to have to give a big fat no on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe by the time she's 60, she might get out, but who knows? She might have to do the whole time.
Yeah. I just, go back to what Nina's maternal grandmother said. She just wants to know, what happened to Paul.
Well, I think Nina, her grandma,
Linda,
they deserve
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the people who know would have to come forward and give that information. My thought is there's no incentive to do it because whatever they say is going to incriminate them.
So this is where I think if you could give a pass to people, you don't want to, but if you can say,
you can,
we won't charge you.
Right. You could give immunity to someone,
but tell us what really happened.
So let's lay out a scenario.
Yeah.
Let's say James knows what happened and Susan is the one who did it. They theoretically could give James immunity.
They could.
To tell exactly what happened, even though it might implicate him in some way. Now, you would think if James is the one that did it, Susan might have already played that card.
Well, that's true. To get a lesser...
To get a lighter sentence. But I don't know. Maybe one day we'll find out.
Yeah.
But that's it for our episode on the disappearance of Paul Baker. We got a voicemail. You want to check that out?
Let's hear it.
Hello, Mike and Gibby. This is Erica, the pediatric nurse calling from Missouri. I was just listening to your latest episode, and we were talking about how this poor 15-year-old girl's body has never been found. Sierra is her name, I believe. And I was just thinking, years from now, when we're long gone, maybe, there will be a new generation of podcasters that could possibly have these answers of where these bodies have been found, It kind of made me, think about the passing of the torch and what an amazing job you guys have done and what an inspiration you guys have been to other people. You guys know that I love you and always Team Mike. I do lean a little towards Gibby because him and I are a lot alike, but you guys are phenomenal together. And I just love you both. And I want to thank you for everything you do. You guys are just amazing people. And as always, keep your head on a swivel and keep your own time ticking. Thanks, guys. Love ya.
Well, first of all, love you too. And thanks for the kudos. But that is such an interesting, thought that I've actually never had.
Yeah.
I mean, someday you and I are going to be older and grayer than we are now.
Right.
Sitting in our rocking chairs, listening to probably updates of stories.
Sure.
That we have done in the past because new information has come out.
Yeah.
And that's an amazing, thing to think about.
And I hope that happens because that means cases have gotten solved.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, buddy. That is it for another episode of True Crime All the Time Unsolved. So for Mike
and Gibby,
stay safe and keep your own time ticking.
Just when you thought summer couldn't get any hotter, Pluto TV is turning up the heat with thousands of free movies. Presenting Summer of Cinema. Stream your favorite blockbuster films like Gladiator.
I will have my vengeance.
Good Burger.
This is what I call fast food.
Beverly Hills Cop. The Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. And Julie and Julia.
Bon appetit.
All for free on your favorite devices. Pluto TV. Stream now. Pay never.